Episode number 12. He was the friend of the king, who on a daily, as everyone knows, the memory of his father, Henry Roman IV. The father of M. de Treville had served him so faithfully in his wars against the League that in default of money, a thing to which the Bernese was accustomed all his life, and who constantly paid his debts with that, of which he never stood in need of borrowing, that is to say, with ready wit, in default of money, we repeat, he authorized him, after the reduction of Paris, to assume for them the golden land patent upon gules, with the motto Fidelis et Fortis. This was a great matter in the way of honor, but very little in the way of wealth, so that when the illustrious companion of the great Henry died, the only inheritance he was able to leave his son was his sword, and his motto. Thanks to this double gift, and the spotless name that accompanied it, M. de Treville was admitted into the household of the young prince, where he made such good use of his sword, and was so faithful to his motto, that Louis Roman XIII, one of the good blades of his kingdom, was accustomed to say that, if he had a friend who was about to fight, he would advise him to choose as a second, himself first, and Treville next, or even, perhaps, before himself. Thus Louis Roman XIII had a real liking for Treville, a royal liking, a self-interested liking, it is true, but still a liking. At that unhappy period it was an important consideration to be surrounded by such men as Treville. Many might take for the device the epithet strong, which formed the second part of his motto, but very few gentlemen could lay claim to the faithful, which constituted the first. Treville was one of these latter. His was one of those rare organizations, endowed with an obedient intelligence like that of the dog, with a blind valor, a quick eye, and a prompt hand, to whom sight appeared only to be given to see if the king were dissatisfied with anyone, and the hand to strike this displeasing personage, whether a Bismay, a Morevez, a Poltiot-Domille, or a Vitry. In short, up to this period nothing had been wanting to Treville, but opportunity, but he was ever on the watch for it, and he faithfully promised himself that he would not fail to seize it by its trees whenever it came within reach of his hand. At last Louis Roman XIII made Treville the captain of his musketeers, who were to Louis Roman XIII in devotedness, or rather in fanaticism, what his ordinaries had been to Henry Roman III, and his Scotch guard to Louis Roman XI. On his part, the cardinal was not behind the king in this respect. When he saw the formidable and chosen body with which Louis Roman XIII had surrounded himself, this second, or rather this first king of France, became desirous that he, too, should have his guard. He had his musketeers therefore, as Louis Roman XIII had his, and these two powerful rivals vied with each other in procuring, not only from all the provinces of France, but even from all foreign states, the most celebrated swordsmen. It was not uncommon for Richelieu and Louis Roman XIII to dispute over their evening game of chess upon the merits of their servants. Each boasted the bearing and the courage of his own people. While exclaiming loudly against duels and brawls, they excited them secretly to quarrel, deriving an immoderate satisfaction or genuine regret from the success or defeat of their own combatants. We learn this from the memoirs of a man who was concerned in some few of these defeats and in many of these victories.